Yo, what's up? And welcome to episode 13 of Throwback Hoops. My name is Rob Clayton, and joining me as always is Woody V. Woody, how's it going, my brother?
Awesome, Robbie. Got my brand new Throwback Hoops mug, enjoying a coffee out of it.
It looks good, doesn't it?
Absolutely, man. Good to be here with you.
Great to be here. Just to sort of confirm, we've got a bit of a special sort of what I'm calling a holiday sort of episode today. But before we get into that, just a reminder where to find us. Please like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. And of course, the podcast is available, where all podcasts are available. Please make sure you hit subscribe there. So, yeah, as I mentioned, a bit of a special sort of episode. We've obviously sort of done this between the holidays. Just wanted to sort of make sure we were still sort of coming out with some content, even though it's not quite a regular episode. But look, of course, Woods, it wouldn't be an episode of Throwback Hoops, right, without us showcasing our jerseys. So, why don't you tell us who you're rocking today, man?
Yeah, well, I got a Kurt Rambis Lakers jersey. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about it?
So, yeah, Woody's standing up wearing the old school yellow number 31 Kurt Rambis jersey. So, for the big fans of the show, it did make a slight appearance a couple of episodes ago on the podcast with Liam Santa Maria. But, yeah, Woody, I know you're a big fan of Mr. Rambis there. What do you want to tell us about him?
Yeah, well, you just mentioned we did pull his card a few weeks back when Santa was on the show. So
a Phoenix Suns one, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It was, I think, 91-92 pack we had that week, right?
Yeah.
Before he was a Phoenix Suns, he was a Laker. And when you talk about the Showtime Lakers, you think of Magic and Kareem. However, Kurt Rambis' name doesn't get mentioned too much, Robbie. But he was one of LA's favorite Suns during that time period because of how hard he played.
Yeah.
We've all seen that footage from the 84 playoffs when he went up for a layup and he was clotheslined by Kevin McHale, causing him to hit the deck. And he got up and he was ready to fight. He had that thick mustache and thick glasses.
Hey, Woods, what do you reckon a player in today's era would do if they clothesline like that? They'd probably lay on the floor for about 20 minutes, right?
Absolutely. You wouldn't get away with that in today's game, would you? Right?
10-game suspension, probably. Yeah.
So, as I was saying, he didn't look like he belonged on a basketball court, but he ended up winning 4 NBA championships, 1982, 85, 87, and 88. And he was a big part of that Lakers championship run in the 80s, Robbie. So,
yeah.
Great jersey.
It is a very nice one, that one. It's the little Lakers day. I like it, mate. I like it. So, all right. So, look, I'll talk you through mine. So, I'm doing the old double sort of player thing today. So, you'll probably see the white jersey hanging in the background there. We've got an old school Steve Francis Houston Rockets jersey. So, obviously, those will remember Steve Francis, or Stevie Franchise as he was known. So, look, I'll just show you the one that I'm wearing as well, and I'll just tell you a little bit about Mr. Stevie Franchise.
So, for those who can't see, Robbie's got an early 2000s Houston Rockets Steve Francis number 3 jersey. Great jersey, Robbie, you got there.
Looking good, right?
Looking great.
So these are both old school Nike jerseys there from the early noughties there. So I think we're sort of saying offline, we haven't really showcased many of our Nike jerseys yet. These old Nike ones are some of my favorite jerseys, actually. They're the stitch ones, so they're a little bit thicker, but very good quality, and they still sort of seem to hold up and look pretty good over time. I think they're a lot better quality than some of those, Reebok and some of those other ones from around that era. So I guess just a little bit of information on Stevie Franchise there. So very sort of interesting history with this guy there, Woods. So look, those will sort of remember he played 9 seasons in the NBA after getting drafted out of Maryland at pick 2 in the 99 draft. You'll probably remember there, Woods. He was actually drafted by the Vancouver Grizzlies.
Yes, he was. Yeah.
He chucked a bit of a hissy fit, didn't he? He decided he didn't want to go there. He didn't think the food would be good. He didn't want to pay, get paid in Canadian dollars, and he didn't want to be far from his family, even though it was quite a sort of close flight away there. So he ended up sort of playing hardball and eventually was traded to Houston before the season started. Pretty crazy trade, actually. It was an 11-player, 3-team trade. So, as I said, he ended up in Houston, and look, that was where he had his best sort of years with Houston. He was actually a 3-time All-Star in 2002, 3, and 4. In his first season, he was a co-Rookie of the Year in 2000. You know who was co-Rookie of the Year with Woods?
Elton Brand. Elton Brand.
Yep. Elton Brand. Yep. Very good. And look, it's actually interesting. Sort of Francis had some really good years under Coach Rudy T with the Rockets, but when Jeff Van Gundy came on board, the two just didn't really seem to gel there, and that kind of seemed to, sort of be the end of Francis's Houston career there. So he was actually traded to Orlando after that, a pretty big trade as well. He was traded for T-Mac and Juwan Howard. So that kind of shows how highly regarded Stevie Francis was at that time. Obviously, we know how good T-Mac was around that time, and he ended up being pretty good with the Rockets as well. So look, after that, he had some stops at Orlando and New York.
Yep.
Before he basically left the league in 2008. It was interesting. He actually got traded to Memphis Grizzlies, where he was drafted in his last season, but he was waived and then was out of the league. So I guess sort of the story that's probably followed Francis after that, he has had a number of legal issues and some personal sort of problems. Look, being a fan of him like myself, it's been quite sad to see that from afar. Look, he is someone that's quite well documented, Woods, that he had quite a rough upbringing growing up in Maryland. But look, I just sort of loved the way he played. I loved his flashiness, loved his dunks. He was just an amazing dunker. He was second in an NBA dunk comp at one stage. So probably, I guess, would have loved to see him have a longer career there, but certainly enjoyed the time he was there.
Well, he did develop a great friendship and bond with Yao Ming during his time there at Houston, and that was really good to see. I enjoyed that duo, right? So
that's right. It's interesting, mate, as well, because for all the stuff you hear from him sort of off court and everything like that, he was sort of renowned as being sort of quite a good teammate when he actually reported to the actual franchise there. Right, so, and of course, Woods, I'm going to have a bobblehead for a player I like so much, right? So look at this bad boy. We've got a 2001, 2002 Houston Rockets Steve Francis bobblehead. It's a pretty crisp looking one, this one, isn't it? I quite like that.
Brilliant.
He's enjoying being on the show too. So, all right. So that's a bit of a trip down memory lane and a bit of stuff about Stevie Francis franchise there. So,
nice,
all right, good stuff. So, all right. Look, as I mentioned at the start, Woods, we've got a bit of a special episode today. So we've had quite a lot of viewer questions and viewers that have sort of contacted us over these last few weeks and sort of hit us up with some questions they like answered. Just wanted to thank everyone that's done that there. Obviously, we're not going to be able to sort of answer everyone's questions there. We'll try and sort of get to some of those in time. But what we've done, I guess, today, Woods, is we've just sort of picked a few questions which we thought were, quite sort of, interesting sort of questions that we'll be able to sort of answer for the viewers there. So, look, I'll start off and sort of get into question one, right? So, okay. So question one, all right, this one reads, "Hi guys, hope all is well. Who do you think is the best point guard of all time in the NBL and NBA? And also, who is the best center of all time in the NBL and NBA?" And that question comes from Boston from Brisbane. So, Woods, do you want to maybe answer that one for us first?
Boston, I will answer that question for you. But before I do that, I must say Boston is a huge follower of me on my TikTok channel, Robbie, right?
Nice.
And Boston saw a video I put up on TikTok some 6 months back of me wearing this very Kurt Rambis jersey. He's like, "I love that jersey, Woody. Make sure you wear it on the show one day." So, Boston, I'm wearing this jersey for you on the show today because I knew you sent the question in. So thanks for sending it in, Boston. But let me get to your question, okay? So my favorite NBL point guard not my favorite, sorry, Robbie. That was a previous show.
That's right. We're used to our favorite parts. This is the best, right? Who do you think's the best?
I think the best NBL point guard of all time is D-Mac, Darryl McDonald, right? And with my center, I'm going to go with Mark Bradkey. Robbie?
Decent. All right. So, look, I'm going to actually do something that I probably rarely do, Woods. I'm actually going to agree with one of you on those. So I'm going to agree with Mark Bradkey. Look, I did a bit of research into this last night and probably thought there might be a few choices, but when you look at Bradkey's resume there, Woods, 3-time champ, a former MVP of the league, a 10-time All-NBL first team, 10 times. So I'm pretty happy having Bradkey as the center on my list. Look, I would have loved to have been a homer for the Wildcats and have James Crawford there, but there's no denying Mark Bradkey's sort of resume there, right?
Honorable mention for the Alabama Slammer, though, for sure.
Of course. And look, with my point guard, it's not going to be a surprise. I actually don't think this is too much of a homer call as well, but I'm going to say Ricky Gross.
Yeah.
4-time champ, 2-time finals MVP, 4-time All-NBL first team during his 15-year career. So Ricky Gross for me. Definitely D-Mac would sort of be in my honourable mentions list. Along with Phil Smythe. He's probably someone that gets forgotten a little bit about as well.
Totally.
Yeah, that would sort of be my sort of list there. And what about in turn with the NBA? Who's your sort of call for the best ever point guard and the best centre in the NBA? Who you got for us there?
Well, we pulled this guy's card twice on the show with Liam. Magic Irvin Johnson I've got as my greatest point guard in NBA history. And then I got Hakeem Olajuwon as my center. I know there's a lot of others that could have done that, but these two guys, at their respective positions just revolutionized the game. So I'm going to go with Magic Irvin Johnson and Hakeem Olajuwon. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you go.
Honorable mention to my favorite center of all time, who's also probably in that top 10 list, Patrick Ewing. I just love Patrick Ewing. Out of all those great centers that came out in the 90s, Patrick Ewing was my favorite, but I'll give it to Hakeem Olajuwon being the best. Yeah.
Nice. And I don't know about you, Woods. I found the top 10 center quite hard, right? At the the top point guard, I sort of nailed that down to about 2 or 3 and picked one. But the center list, I mean, look, obviously for us, we're probably not going to go back too far in terms of people like Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain. But for myself, I actually have gone back probably just a little bit far sort of around those guys. I'm going to say the captain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Oh, nice.
So, look, I mean, Kareem's resume, when you sort of do look at his resume, no one else really stacks up, to be honest. And, look, I really think he's someone in general that's kind of been a little bit forgotten about in that sort of GOAT conversation there. I mean, without sort of going too much into it, this is some of Kareem's accolades there, Wood. So he's got the most ever MVPs in the association with 6. Yep. He dominated the game at every level from high school to college to the pros. Went on to win 6 titles, 2 finals MVPs, and 19 All-Star games, Woods. 19. And also 15-time All-NBA and 11-time All-Defensive player. So we're talking about a player that did it at each end there. So Kareem, for me, I actually think he gets a little bit slept on, maybe just from the way that he kind of looked at the end of his career, right? And you can maybe say the same for Phil Smythe, who we mentioned in the NBL. He was someone that people saw. He looked a bit, goofy with his, his bald head and his, funny goggles and that sky hook and everything he had. But the guy was just absolutely unstoppable there. So, look, honourable mentions to myself, definitely Hakeem. That's a great choice from you. He's an absolute legend.
Thanks, Robert.
Also Shaq as well. So they would sort of, be on that sort of honourable sort of mentions list for me as well. So, all right. So, Woods, I better sort of just say sort of who I think is that sort of best point guard in NBA history. Might be a little bit of a hot take, but look, I think he's put himself into this category now, and I'm going to say Steph Curry. Look, probably even 2 years ago, maybe I might not have sort of been as high, but just what Curry has managed to do there. Obviously, we know his accolades. He's a 2-time NBA MVP and a 3-time champ. Look, the way he's playing this year, I'd say he's probably the favourite to get that 3rd MVP, and that would certainly elevate him up that sort of ranks there. Magic Johnson's got 3 MVPs, so it would level with him. It would also separate him from Steve Nash, who also won 2. So, yeah, I'm going to say Steph Curry for the best ever point guard for me. All right, now that was fun doing that one, Woods. It's like we said, it's a bit different. A lot of times we do our favourite type of list, but this time we had to sort of, I guess, do it more with our head and not our heart, and sort of select those players there.
Yep,
so
definitely.
All right, good stuff. So this question 2 that's coming up. This is quite a different question, but I do like this one, and I like the way this has been asked there. So, question 2, fellas, really enjoying the podcast. Great job. Thank you. One of the saddest stories in the NBA I've ever heard is the one about Javaris Crittenton, from NBA player to convicted felon. Do you guys have any inside scoops on what really happened? Where is he now? And do you think that incident also changed how Gilbert Arenas' career ended? That question there is from Eric Q from Sydney. So firstly, a big shout out to Eric Q for that question there. And look, Woods, I know you know a bit about this story, mate. So why don't you sort of start us off with answering this one?
Yeah, just be a bit patient with me because there's a lot for me to cover in this particular. Very great question, Eric, and it's a sad and at the same time interesting story. So before I speak on this, Eric, let's start off by saying that growing up, Javaris, despite being a model student with good values, it was widely reported that the constant pull of the streets drew him in, right? And fighting against, the new millionaire lifestyle brought on by a professional basketball career, this pull of the streets continued once he entered the NBA. And Eric Crittenton reportedly joined the LA Crips gang after signing with the Los Angeles Lakers in his rookie season. And in 2009, things just went to another level with Javaris and Gilbert Arenas. They were teammates on the Washington Wizards, as you may know. And it started with a game of Bure, a card game that is played on flights between all NBA players. It's a well-known thing that NBA players like to play Bure, Robbie, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And there was an incident when Gilbert said, I was like, Javaris, I will burn your car while you're in it. Then we'll find an extinguisher to help your ass out, Arenas said. And he says, well, Crittenton then replied to him, well, I'll just shoot you then. I said, man, I'll bring you the guns to shoot me. So Arenas then brought 4 unloaded guns to the Wizards locker room 2 days later as a joke. And Gilbert Arenas said, it was about me calling his bluff. You're saying you're going to shoot me? Fine. I'll bring you the guns to do it. Crittenton then pulled out a loaded gun and pointed at Arenas, scaring the other players in the locker room. The rest of the team just ran and left Arenas and Crittenton alone in the locker room. Crazy, in an NBA locker room, Robbie,
Absolutely
right?
crazy, isn't it? Jeez.
And then 2 days later, Crittenton and Arenas were suspended for the rest of the season by NBA Commissioner David Stern. Crittenton would never see the NBA court again. He was released by the Wizards following the suspension. While, as you know, Robbie, Arenas had short stints with the Orlando Magic and the Memphis Grizzlies.
Mm-hmm.
After the Indian incident, his career ended and he was out of the league by 30. So to answer your question, Eric, on Gilbert Arenas, that incident changed Arenas' life and career forever. He would never be the same again. And only a few years after this happened, he was done.
Yeah.
And as far as Crittenton, he fell deep into that gang life, which he commenced, as mentioned earlier, in LA. And there was an incident where he was robbed at gunpoint by a rival, and he wanted to retaliate, right? And Crittenton shot and killed Julianne Jones, a mother of 4 children, in a drive-by shooting while she was outside of her home on August 19, 2011. The target of his shooting was in the vicinity, and the bullet that killed Jones was not actually intended for her. It is a travesty that this happened to an innocent bystander and a mother.
Yeah.
And Javaris is now serving a 23-year sentence after pleading guilty to manslaughter, Eric, and rightfully so. So when you ask where is he now, he's in jail, Eric.
He's going to be there for quite a while as well, I think, isn't he, Woods?
He is.
Yeah, no, that was really interesting, giving a bit of background there. Look, I guess for me, I mean, probably the things I remember about Javaris Crittenton, look, obviously he was an Atlanta native, and obviously, you know, I'm someone that's always sort of followed that Atlanta sports scene there, so I was certainly aware of him sort of coming through high school. He was really good friends and teammates with Dwight Howard there. Yep, and of course my boy Josh Smith.
Yep.
And so, look, it was sort of interesting. I actually found this quote that I think a former college coach said, and they basically said, so the actual quote said, friends, educators, former coaches and teammates almost uniformly describe Crittenton as intelligent, thoughtful, generous and well-mannered. His college coach recalls him as a neat freak. His high school principal remembers him as a bright student with a 3.5 grade point average and a passion for science projects. So, I mean, how did it all go so wrong that suddenly someone would make their dream of getting drafted into the league, go and join the Crips gang? I mean, it seems to me, like you said, Woody, was sort of getting swept into that sort of street life there.
From a young age. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, pretty sort of sad to sort of see that. The other thing I remember about him, and this is a little bit sort of more on the court, but you'll probably remember, Woods, he was involved in the Gasol brothers trade between the Lakers and the Grizzlies in 2008 there. So a lot of people will remember that, you know, the Gasol brothers sort of swapped in that trade there, and everyone thought the Lakers, you know, had an absolute steal there getting Pau Gasol. But I think as that sort of their careers went on a bit more, it became a bit more of an even trade, didn't it, with Marc Gasol, you know, losing all those kilos and sort of turning into a good player there. So, yeah, really interesting question from Eric there, and it's obviously a sad story, isn't it? But it's
very
one
sad.
That was, you know, it's good to sort of tell, and we can just, you know, maybe sort of educate a few people that weren't sort of, you know, familiar with the whole story there. So, no, that's a good one there. So, all right, Woods, we're going to get on to question 3 there. So a little bit of a different sort of theme on this one, but okay. So question 3 reads, "Hi, Woody and Rob. Why doesn't Daryl Morey trade Ben Simmons for DeJounte Murray? Murray is a baller and has been balling out this year. Defensive stopper, pass first point guard, plus he can somewhat shoot the 3 ball. He is a triple-double threat and does not get any love since he is a Spur. We've seen what DeRozan can do for the Bulls. Let's get Murray to the Sixers." And that question is from Arun from Sydney. So, Arun, thanks very much for the question there, mate. We know you're a big sort of supporter of the show. We appreciate your support there. So, all right, what I might do, Woody, I might sort of, I guess, take us away with this one. Look, as I said, good question. I certainly think it would be a reasonable trade. It's no doubt, as you've said, Murray has been great this year. I don't know. For me personally, I just sort of get that impression that Daryl Morey is determined to get a star in return. And as much as Murray sort of is, you know, I would consider him a young star. I just don't think he's sort of that player personally that maybe Morey wants to get back. So I think he's looking for, you know, someone, maybe a bit of a bigger name player there as much as anything that he can sort of get back in a package there. So look, we'll obviously see what happens with that. The longer this Ben Simmons saga goes on, I mean, who knows? They might just need to trade him for anything at the end of the day. But that's probably sort of my thoughts there anyway. What about yourself there, Woods?
Yeah, thanks, Robbie. Well, I don't think he's going to get that big name player that he wants, Morey. But you know how much I love DeJounte Murray, and the Spurs have invested so much time to develop him over the years. And he's on an all-star team this year, you know, Robbie. 17.7 points per game, 8.4 assists, 8.3 rebounds, 2 steals per game, and nearly 35% from the three-point line. So as you said, Arun, he's a triple threat, as you said, and he can somewhat shoot the three. And no chance I'm giving him up for Simmons at all, you know.
He's definitely an up-and-coming star, isn't he? You can certainly say
no
that.
chance.
He's sort of got a little bit more upside there, whereas Simmons, I mean, I don't know. Do you sort of want to trade for someone like that? I mean, obviously the thing with Simmons, he's a multiple all-star that's got a lot of skills, but I just wonder how this last year is going to affect him sort of mentally and a few other things like that. Did you also hear the news as well, Wood? So people are sort of saying, oh, let's just trade Simmons or something else like that. There's quite a few rumors going out that Simmons is actually gone the Kyrie path, and he actually hasn't been vaccinated as well. So
yeah, I read
wouldn't that be interesting if he actually does get traded to someone, and then basically with whatever rules these states have in place, he's still not going to be allowed to play for that team like we're seeing with Kyrie. So it might not just be as easy as trading him there. I think they'd probably want to work out whether he's had the old jab before they go ahead and push the trade button there, right?
Well, yeah, that's another spanner that's been thrown in the works. But, you know, Murray's one of my favorite players in the world. So maybe I'm a bit biased and in that sense. But I think a guy like Brogdon for Simmons may be the best situation, you know.
It's been mentioned, but I think they've re-signed Brogdon, didn't they? The places to that sort of contract. So he's probably the one player on that team they might not trade. But either way, Woods, I'm sure Ben Simmons is working really hard in the gym right now, right? He's working on his jump shot every day and working on all those things of his game that he needs to improve, right? He's absolutely doing that, isn't he?
Well, he's going to post videos of him doing it, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the 10 minutes a week he does it, he'll post a video. Right, that's a good one there. So yeah, it'll be interesting. We'll sort of watch this space, I guess, to see what sort of happens, you know, with Ben Simmons. I don't think Spurs are going to be sort of actively shopping Murray there, but who knows? I mean, if something comes up that they're in a position to make that trade, then maybe they go ahead.
Just one more thing, Robbie, on that. The Spurs are known for developing from within, right? They draft a player, they invest time in that player, and let that player thrive in their system. We've seen it over and over again, and they're not going to let go of DeJounte Murray after, you know, as I said earlier, putting all that time to get him to be the player he is now, right?
Plus, there's a big thing with chemistry on that team, right? And we know what the Spurs are like, so they want to bring in someone that could be such a distraction there, as opposed to a young sort of up-and-coming good teammate. Not going to happen, I think. But anyway, we'll try and find a trade for Simmons eventually. I just don't think it's going to be to the Spurs. So, all right, that's a good question there, everyone. We appreciate that one. So, look, it kind of brings us to our last question, Woods. It's kind of a fun one. It's a two-part question. We got this one here. So I'll just read that question out. So, hi, guys. Thanks so much for the weekly content that you guys bring. I have a two-part question. Firstly, it is clear that you both have simply epic jersey collections, so thank you. I appreciate that. However, I was wondering if you have any jerseys that you would love but have been unable to find. And then the second part for that question is, what is your favorite basketball movie of all time? Great question. Keep it up. Heath from Tassie. So, Heath, love those questions, mate. They're definitely right up our alley there. So, look, maybe I'll sort of start, I guess, Woods, with the jersey sort of part there. So, look, as you know, massive jersey freaks like us, I mean, I've got certain lists around the place, and there's been certain jerseys that I'm always sort of hunting for and haven't been able to find. Quick little story before I give you my jerseys there, Woods. So, you'll remember I was a big fan of Lionel Simmons, the L Train, right, from the Sacramento Kings that played in the 90s. That jersey for about at least 10 years was my white whale, right? I was looking for that jersey all the time. And I even remember being on holiday in Thailand one time where I woke up 3 a.m. or something like that, because there was an auction that was ending in America at the time for a Lionel Simmons jersey. I missed out on it, went back to bed, and I was in a real bad mood, right? It took another 3 years after that time before I finally managed to track one down. And of course, as soon as I tracked that one down, I bought it straight away. I massively paid over the odds for it, but hey, what does that matter, right? That's one I wanted to get in my collection. So that's a little bit of story of one that I always wanted that I eventually got. Look, in terms of the ones that I'm sort of constantly on the hunt for, in terms of NBL, and I've probably mentioned a couple of these guys on previous episodes, but Andrew Parkinson from the Southeast Melbourne Magic, he's the main one I'm sort of looking for there. So that's probably my white whale jersey at the moment, Woods. I want to get an Andrew Parkinson, number 14 Southeast Melbourne jersey. Also, I'd be pretty keen to get a Dave Colbert Melbourne Tigers jersey. Yep. And you know how much I love this guy, Woods, Eric Watterson from the Perth Wildcats. So probably even like he had on his jersey back in the day with Watto instead of Watterson. So they'd be the ones that sort of stand out in the NBL. Why don't you give me your NBL ones, Woods, and then maybe we'll do our NBA ones after that.
Yeah, of course. So for NBL, Andre Lafleur Gold Coast Rollers jersey.
Nice.
That's the one that I want.
Number 35.
Yeah, I would love to get one, just to get that green Rollers jersey.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll ever find one. Maybe, our friend who does those replicas will come back on in the next year or two, and he's disappeared for a while, and we can get one made up, a Parkinson one and a Lafleur one. But yeah.
Hey, what about a Calvin Telford? We'll get one of them made up as well.
Hell yeah.
That'd be nice.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah, all right. I like that one. So, look, in terms of the NBA one, I had a bit of a think about this as well. There's definitely one that stands out at the top of my list. I'm actually not even sure whether you've got this guy's jersey, Wood, so you can correct me. But the main jersey I'm looking for at the moment would be an old school NBA champion, Robert Pac-Man Pack jersey. So Robert Pack, from around that time that he played with the Denver Nuggets or perhaps even the Washington Wizards. But yeah, Robert Pack, for those who remember him, he was a pretty short point guard that just jumped out of the gym. Love the way that guy played back in the day. So he's one of those ones I've got saved searches in eBay and all these other sort of things. Nothing ever comes up. So it's a very random one. Now, do you have his jersey?
No, I've got the Muhammad Abdul Rauf one in that same variety, man. And I've seen that Robert Pack one online, and I've seen a Nets one. I've seen a Nets Robert Pack online a couple of times. But the Nuggets one, I've got the Mahmoud Abdul Rauf and the champion of that same variety.
Yeah. If you ever see one, if you see a Robert Pack, just get me on the phone straight away. I'll just buy it for me and I'll just pay it back. All good, right? All right. So Robert Pack would be the main one. Two other ones I sort of thought of as well. Given obviously my love for the Hawks and my ginormous Hawks collection there, an old school Doc Rivers Hawks jersey. Number 25 there. That would be one that I'd really like to get. I don't like my chances of getting one of those now because they weren't even really sort of selling that many jerseys, to fans and the public and everything around that sort of era that Doc was playing, especially, the only jerseys he might have been able to get back then would sort have been, Larry Bird, Magic and Jordan, I guess, for that sort of era there. So, and look, probably the last one, Woods, I know we like collecting our sort of, Aussies that have played in the NBA. So I've always thought it'd be pretty cool to get an Andrew Gaze jersey with either the Spurs or the Bullets there. So one of those Andrew Gaze jerseys as well. And I think you've probably mentioned a Nate Jawai one back in the day, right? You wouldn't mind getting a Minnesota or a Toronto Nate Jawai. But yeah, what have you got for your sort of NBA ones there?
You stole my thunder a little bit there because I was going to say Aussies in the NBA. I'd love to get a Minnesota Nate Jawai jersey. Nice. But the one that I've been looking for years, just like you have been for Robert Pack, is a Kerry Kittles Nets jersey, man.
I've got that same jersey, right, Woods?
I know.
I know. I think it's a bit big, though. It might not fit you, but
I know. Hey, you wouldn't give it to me anyway, bro. It's funny.
I do like that one. The number 30 Kerry Kittles Nets jersey.
So, I think you've actually pointed one out to me, and I just missed it a few years back.
Would it only be a Nets jersey you'd want to get for him? Who else did he play for? Do you recall sort of? I mean, the Nets is that main sort of team I'm sort of picturing him with there. I know he's sort of. You can check that while sort of a bit of a talk there, but yeah, I know sort of Kerry Kittles was obviously with the Nets in that era. Kenny Anderson, Derek Coleman, and everything else like that. So they had those great jerseys back in the day. But
yes, so yeah, we just went to the Clippers for 1 year after spending 8 years at the Nets to the very end of his career.
Well, it has to be a Nets jersey then, right? You're not going to get a Clippers Kerry Kittles, so. All right.
I remember on those teams with Jason Kidd and Kenyon Martin, etc.
Yep.
That team, So
yeah, so a little bit later than what
Aaron Williams on that team as well, right?
Yep. I like that one. All right, so that's kind of our jerseys there. So look, love our fans and people that sort of support the show there. So if anyone knows about any of these or you've seen any of these where they might be available, hit us up, right? We'll pay top dollar, right, Woods?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hit us up, please.
All right, definitely. So, all right, as we mentioned, it was a two-part question there. So, look, obviously, Heath has asked, Heath from Tassie's asked us what our favourite basketball-related movie is. So, Woods, you got maybe something you can put up on the screen for us there, and we'll sort of talk through those. So, in fact, Woods, I know that's your sort of movie there. So, tell the audience a little bit about what you've got up there.
Rebound, The Legend of Earl Manigault. Now, people are using the word GOAT all the time these days just for fun, Robbie, right? Mm-hmm. But the original GOAT was Earl Manigault, okay? And this movie stars a young Don Cheadle as the GOAT, alongside Eric LaSalle and Forrest Whitaker, my favorite actor of all time.
It's a good cast, isn't it, back then?
Yeah, and he plays Holcomb Rucker. And for those who don't know, Rucker Park in New York is named after Holcomb Rucker. Mm-hmm. I'll just give you a fun fact. You spoke about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar earlier in the show and how he was, in your opinion, the best center of all time, right, Robbie?
Yeah.
And the movie starts with an actual real-life interview with Kareem being in the locker room being asked a few questions after his final game playing for the Lakers. And one of the reporters says, look, Kareem, you've played against a lot of players in your life. You've gone up against Wilt, you've gone up against this person, that person. If you were to actually nominate one player, and you can only name one name, right? And who would the greatest player you've ever played against be? And Kareem said, only one. And the reporter's like, only one name, Kareem. He says, well, that would have to be the GOAT. And the movie then starts with a junkie walking down the streets and nearly getting hit by a car. That is the premise of how the movie starts. Okay. Yep. And I'm going to leave it at that. And for those of you who haven't seen it, you see it on the screen in front of you right now. Rebound, the legend of Earl Manigault. Get your hands on a copy. I'm pretty sure there's a version on YouTube if you even want to watch it, because it might be hard to find this day and age, right, Robbie?
It's very hard to find, Woods. I mean, I actually I watched this a couple of months ago myself, and it had been years since I watched it. Look, it's definitely one of those movies that hasn't sort of been, remastered or put onto any sort of Blu-ray formats there. It's pretty old school looking. It's pretty raw looking there, but I agree. It is a great sort of story that it sort of tells there. So yeah, I'd say there probably would be a lot of people listening to this right now, Woods, that maybe haven't seen this. I think, you think of those, favorite, basketball related movies, and, people are thinking, White Men Can't Jump and other things like that. But yeah, I think that's a great one you've chosen there, Wood. So definitely encourage anyone that hasn't seen that movie to check it out, right?
Based on a true story as well. Makes it even better, right?
And obviously Don Cheadle now, and people know sort of how big that guy is. He's in all the Marvel films and everything. But like what he said, this is a real young Don Cheadle in this movie, and he plays the part very well, I think. So,
brilliantly. Yeah.
Good choice. And I should say as well, Woods, when we got this question, we love doing our lists there. So we sort of spoke together. This may be something we sort of, have for a future episode there, where we try to put together our 5 favorite basketball movies or something like that. Try and see if we can get blue chips in that top 5 or something, right, Woods? But yeah, we'll see how we go there. So all right. Well, look, I might sort of just talk a little bit about my one there, Woods. It's up on the screen now for people that are watching the video. Above the Rim. So, look, I love this movie back in the day. Just for me, it was a combination of sort of the music, the on-court action there. Obviously had a great cast there. And obviously people will remember that Tupac was in that movie as well. Rest in peace there. So, look, I think probably a few more people would have seen, Above the Rim, I would have thought, than Rebound. And obviously sort of Dwayne Martin is sort of the main guy that's in it. It always frustrated me a little bit, because I always called him a former NBA player, but he actually played as many minutes in the NBA as you and I did there, Woods. But either way, he's a good player. He's actually still sort of acting now. I recently saw him on a show called LA's Finest with my girl Jessica Alba on that. So he was acting on that show. So yeah, Above the Rim for me there. And look, as I said, we might sort of go back into a future episode and maybe try and break down like a top 5 or something like that, right, Woods? I'm not sure. Would you have Hoosiers in your top 5, or is that probably just going to miss out?
Absolutely not, right?
It hasn't dated very well, that movie, has it? Like the tight shorts and the way those guys were dribbling the ball and everything hasn't dated very well over the years.
So check this out. If you smell and it's smoke, it's just me and my homies getting blowed away. Who sings that song?
I can't even picture it, even though you did such a great job of rapping it and singing it for me.
Well, it's just a great soundtrack, Above the Rim soundtrack to go with the movie. It's B. Rizal, Blowed Away. And that had Pain on it as well.
I was about to say, I always got stuck on the Tupac Pain song there.
Oh, man. That is a flyest soundtrack to go alongside that movie, man. So,
and that's what I said. I loved it at the time, sort of the action. I know it was all filmed in Harlem, that movie there, and it just sort of looked really good with, the action and obviously the sort of soundtrack that accompanied it there. So, yeah, no, that was fun. Sort of.
Interesting fact as well, Tupac was serving a sentence in jail when that movie was shot, and he was given a release so he could go and shoot the movie. Did you know that?
Interesting, special sort of privileges there for him, right?
Yep.
Nah, that was good. He was obviously sort of, having a lot of good movies with Juice and some of those other ones at the time, Poetic Justice and a few things like that. So, no, that's a good one. Look, I really enjoyed that question. Just wanted to thank, obviously, the people that sort of written in and asked those questions. And we had a lot of fun sort of looking into our answers there and sort of coming up with some sort of replies there. So, as I said, we did get a lot of questions that we weren't able to get to, but look, we'll certainly try and get to those in a future episodes, and keep them coming. Any questions you want to cover, basketball related, it could be like ones like here, what movie soundtrack, jerseys, players, anything else like that, just hit us up and we'll try and answer those. So all right, good stuff. So, all right, we'll probably sort of start to wrap it up a little bit now. So, look, I just wanted to thank everyone for tuning in. As I mentioned at the start of the show, please make sure you subscribe and watch the videos on YouTube there. If you listen to our audio each week on the podcast, the podcast can sort of be found, anywhere where podcasts are available. We're not going to sort of read those all out, but I know you guys all know those by now. In terms of where we can be sort of where we'd be followed there. So Woods, I'll take us through those first ones there. So look, obviously with the Twitter handle there, we're at Throwback Hoops. Instagram is throwback.hoops. And of course, the email we've been getting a lot of these great questions to is throwbackhoopspodcast@gmail.com. Now, Woods, why don't you give your TikTok details as well as sort of telling the audience a little bit about the Patreon as well?
Yeah, so Woody_V83 is my TikTok channel. And as I said earlier, Boston actually found out about the show by locating me on TikTok. So we'll showcase some of the jerseys and stuff that are worn on the show there. And it's a nice medium to, cater for some of the younger audience. All right. Patreon is www.patreon.com/throwbackhoops. If you like the podcast, please pledge your support to us. It helps us with, small costs that are associated with maintaining a show like this. It's not a must, but if you'd like to, we thank you very much. And we thank all our Patreon members up to date as well. Yep.
Absolutely. No, well said, Woods. All right. Well, look, I just wanted to sort of confirm we'll certainly be back, early in the new year. We're going to sort of start our normal sort of weekly shows again then. And we're going to start off with a bang. I sort of have teased this a few times. What have I sort of given away so far, Woods? I think I said 3-time Olympian and perhaps one of the greatest female basketball players ever or something like that. Anyway, I'll just kind of leave it there. But, looking forward to that first week of January to bring that one to us. Obviously just wanted to thank everyone for our support. Also, a bit of a shout out to sort of the guys behind the scenes that help us there. Would a massive shout out to Lala, who's our super producer, who, without all the stuff he does each week,
thanks, Lala,
wouldn't be possible. And also to JC for all the assistance he sort of provided us as well. So
thanks, Jeremy.
Obviously wanted to wish a happy new year to you and yours from the Throwback Hoops show, and we can't wait to do it all again soon.
Bring on 2022.
Peace out, guys.